Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what it really means when you look absolutely fine on the outside, but feel completely exhausted on the inside. If you've ever felt like you're constantly pushing forward while quietly running on empty, you are in exactly the right place. So let's start with a question that so many highly capable people secretly ask themselves every single day. You know the feeling, right? You meet all your deadlines, you show up for your family, you're the dependable one. But the second you're alone, the exhaustion is just overwhelming. What we're really looking at here is the massive discrepancy between the mask you present to the world and the heavy toll it's taking on your nervous system. On the outside, everyone sees someone who is incredibly organized, dependable, and successful. But your hidden internal reality, it's an exhausted, racing mind that's just filled with constant worry. It's literally like being a duck on a pond. You are effortlessly gliding across the surface for everyone to see, but underneath the water, you are paddling frantically just to stay afloat and keep moving forward. It's an absolutely perfect analogy for this. Moving into Section 1, defining high-functioning anxiety. What is it? Here's the really interesting thing. High-functioning anxiety isn't actually a formal medical diagnosis you'll find in clinical manuals, but it is a widely recognized, highly descriptive term. It puts a name to this very real pattern where you just keep meeting your responsibilities and achieving success despite experiencing some serious internal distress. Now, to be clear, it does differ from a formal diagnosis like generalized anxiety disorder. With generalized anxiety disorder, the anxiety actively disrupts your ability to go about your day. It might cause you to miss work or withdraw. With high-functioning anxiety, the anxiety is absolutely just as real, but it impacts how you function rather than if you function. Okay, Section 2, the hidden signs. Let's talk about spotting the struggle. Because this type of anxiety is so incredibly good at masking itself as ambition, it can be really tricky to pinpoint. But if the thought, if I don't do this perfectly, everything will fall apart, sounds familiar, that's because an overwhelming drive for perfectionism is one of the biggest hallmarks here. You live with this persistent fear that any tiny mistake will lead to total disaster. Psychologically, this takes a huge toll. Your mind is constantly racing. You're probably overanalyzing past conversations, dealing with really harsh self-criticism, and living in a state of hypervigilance. You literally cannot switch off and relax, even when you're supposed to be resting on the couch. And of course, there's the mind-body connection. All that mental strain has to go somewhere, and it inevitably leaks out as physical exhaustion. When your nervous system is stuck on high alert, it translates into persistent muscle tension, frequent headaches, awful sleep where your brain just won't shut up, and even digestive issues. Which brings us to Section 3, hiding in plain sight. Why exactly does this go unnoticed? Well, the hard truth is that our culture absolutely loves productivity and busyness. So the overachieving behaviors that are actually masking your anxiety, things like working late, double-checking every detail, striving for perfection, they're usually met with applause, right? You get promotions and praise rather than concern. You're being rewarded for the very things that are burning you out. And because you're still hitting those deadlines and keeping all the plates spinning, you might actually minimize your own pain. You might tell yourself, well, I'm not struggling enough to ask for help, or assume you just need to try harder. But let me be clear, your distress is entirely valid, even if it's completely invisible to everyone else. So let's get into Section 4, changing patterns and finding some actual relief. You do not have to live like this forever. Evidence-based methods like cognitive behavioral therapy show us that the first step is actively reframing those harsh internal thoughts. It's about learning to catch those worst-case scenarios, setting expectations that are actually grounded in reality, and finally letting go of those impossible, exhausting standards of perfectionism. Next, we look at the behaviors. This means safely stepping away from that exhausting need to control everything around you. It's about letting go of the excessive double-checking. And this is a big one, practicing how to tolerate uncertainty, instead of burning yourself out trying to eliminate it completely. Finally, Section 5, taking the next step and finding support. If you are recognizing yourself in this explainer today, I want to talk about moving toward genuine relief. It is incredibly common to feel like you've read all the books, tried all the life hacks, but something still feels unfinished. True healing means moving beyond just managing those surface-level symptoms and understanding the deeper forces driving your exhaustion. So are you ready to understand yourself in a way that actually changes things?
If you're tired of just coping and spinning your wheels, and you want to finally feel at home in your own skin, it's time to reach out for grounded, validating support. Finding the right clinical partner is an absolute game changer for this. The clinicians at Edward Jenny and Associates specialize in exactly this kind of transition. Using their unique deep insight model, they work with you to uncover the hidden patterns driving your anxiety. It's warm, compassionate, totally jargon-free care designed to help you release that self-blame. They offer both in-person sessions in West Grove, Pennsylvania, and online care across the entire state.
I'll leave you with this thought. What would your life actually look like without that heavy, constant undercurrent of worry? If you're ready to find out, consider booking a free consultation with Edward Jenny and Associates to start your journey toward genuine, lasting peace today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, you do not have to carry this alone.